Imagine graduating from college today. You spent 4 years studying computer science. You send out 80 job applications, and almost every rejection says the same thing. We're looking for candidates with 3 or more years of experience. Here's the irony. AI can already write code, draft contracts, summarize research papers, and even build basic financial models. Much of the work that used to help beginners gain experience can now be done by AI, faster, cheaper, and often well enough. So maybe we've been asking the wrong question. Everyone wants to know, will AI take my job? But the more interesting question is this. If companies stop hiring beginners to do the work that used to train them, where do tomorrow's experts come from? Because becoming an expert has never been about what you know. It's about how you learn. And AI may be changing that process completely. Before we go any further, let's be clear about one thing. This isn't happening everywhere. Last month, a pipe burst in my apartment. The plumber arrived, looked at the pipes for less than 10 seconds, tapped one with a wrench, and said, "Grease clog." 20 minutes later, the problem was gone. That diagnosis didn't come from reading a manual. It came from years of seeing hundreds, maybe thousands, of nearly identical problems. A nurse still comforts a frightened patient in the middle of the night. An electrician still knows which wire not to touch when the lights start flickering. These jobs depend on physical interaction, messy real-world environments, and judgment built through experience. AI isn't replacing that. At least not yet. The real disruption is happening somewhere else. Knowledge work, software engineering, finance, consulting. These professions revolve around processing information. And processing information is exactly what modern AI is becoming extraordinarily good at. When a junior lawyer spends 3 days researching case law, and AI can produce a solid first draft in seconds, the traditional career ladder begins to wobble. Not because experts disappear, but because beginners lose the work that once helped them become experts. This isn't the first time technology has reshaped the way people build careers. Desktop publishing replaced typesetting. Computer-aided design replaced drafting tables. Spreadsheets transformed accounting. Those transitions were disruptive, but they still preserved something important. People still had to learn the tools. They still had to practice. Technology changed how people worked, not whether they needed to learn. AI feels fundamentally different, because it isn't simply helping people perform a task. Increasingly, it's performing the task itself. We've seen something similar before. Calculators quietly weakened our mental arithmetic. GPS made many of us worse at navigating unfamiliar places. Search engines changed what we bother remembering. Technology has always shifted where our brains invest effort. But AI may be doing something new. It isn't just reducing cognitive effort. It may be reducing the repeated experiences that gradually build expertise in the first place. If beginners no longer spend years solving small problems, making mistakes, receiving feedback, and trying again, then we aren't simply saving time. We're removing part of the learning process itself. The career ladder isn't just losing its first step. Its foundation may be changing entirely. For generations, becoming an expert followed a surprisingly consistent pattern. You didn't start with the important decisions. You earned them. Junior developers fixed small bugs. Junior lawyers reviewed contracts. Junior analysts cleaned spreadsheets and built presentation decks. None of it was glamorous, but none of it was wasted. Those repetitive tasks weren't just producing work. They were producing judgment. Every bug you tracked down taught you where software tends to fail. Every contract you reviewed trained your eye to spot tiny inconsistencies. Every mistake corrected by someone more experienced became a lesson your brain could reuse later. Neuroscientists have found that repeated practice physically changes the brain over time. Part of that process involves myelination, strengthening frequently used neural pathways so signals travel faster, more reliably, and with less effort. But myelination isn't something that happens overnight. It develops through countless cycles of trying, failing, receiving feedback, and trying again. That's why expertise can't simply be downloaded. It can't be delegated to AI. It has to be built. The traditional career ladder wasn't just a promotion system. It was a learning system. Routine work wasn't the price you paid before doing meaningful work. Routine work was the training that made meaningful work possible. Take away that training, and you don't just lose today's junior employees. You risk losing tomorrow's experts. Now look at the kinds of work AI is improving the fastest. Research, documentation, writing first drafts, summarizing meetings. These are exactly the tasks traditionally assigned to entry-level knowledge workers. That doesn't necessarily mean companies will stop hiring graduates tomorrow, but it does change the economics of hiring. Imagine you're running a consulting firm. Last year, you hired 50 junior analysts. Today, AI can complete much of that work in minutes. So maybe you don't need 50 juniors anymore. Maybe you only need 10. Their job shifts from producing information to supervising it, checking it, questioning it, improving it. At first, that sounds like progress, but it creates a difficult question. If beginners no longer spend years wrestling with the underlying work, how do they develop the judgment needed to supervise AI in the first place? AI can reduce the work. It cannot automatically transfer the understanding that the work used to create. But what if we're looking at this completely the wrong way? For decades, we've treated experience as something you accumulate over time. Time became a convenient shortcut for expertise. But time was never the thing employers actually wanted. They wanted judgment. The reason experience mattered wasn't because you'd been employed for 5 years. It was because those 5 years usually exposed you to difficult problems, costly mistakes, unhappy clients, impossible deadlines, and decisions with real consequences. Experience was simply the record of surviving all of that. AI forces us to ask a different question. What if experience no longer depends primarily on time? Imagine two candidates. The first spent 5 years doing traditional entry-level work. The second spent 3 years building AI tools. Who has more experience? The answer isn't nearly as obvious as it used to be. Maybe the future belongs to people who learn faster rather than people who simply stay longer. If that's true, AI isn't eliminating experience. It's redefining how experience is earned. But even if experience changes, can AI-generated experience replace responsibility? Writing legal arguments with AI is one thing. Signing your name beneath those arguments is another. Knowledge has become dramatically cheaper. But judgment follows different rules. Judgment develops when decisions have consequences. When your recommendation costs a company millions. When a patient, a customer, or an entire team depends on your decision. That's something AI can't experience. If an AI makes a mistake, it generates another answer. If you make a mistake, you stay awake thinking about it. You repair the damage. You carry the lesson forward. That emotional weight isn't a flaw in human decision-making. It's one of the reasons judgment develops in the first place. Expertise has never been just about accumulating information. It's about gradually earning the responsibility to make decisions that matter. And responsibility cannot be outsourced. For more than a century, society operated on a quiet agreement. Universities taught theory. Companies provided practice. Experienced professionals passed down judgment. Together, they produced the next generation of experts. Now that system is beginning to change. AI can explain what an expert knows, but it's much harder for AI to pass on what an expert has lived through. Perhaps the greatest loss of the AI era won't be jobs. It will be the gradual disappearance of apprenticeship, the invisible process through which one generation quietly prepares the next. So, is the career ladder disappearing? Perhaps it's simply changing into something we don't recognize yet. The real advantage may belong to those who can combine AI speed with something AI still struggles to build. Curiosity, responsibility, resilience, and judgment. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay curious.